All right, welcome to Playing Out of Control, Episode 4, Independence Day. Welcome back, guys. It's the 4th of July weekend, and I hope to actually have done this on Saturday on the 4th of July, but that didn't work out because my neighbors shut off fireworks till 5 a.m. So, happy 4th weekend at least. And yes, if you caught the emergency episode this week, there were 2 of these episodes this week. Sorry. That one was the fire alarm. This one's the cookout, I promise. So our 3 things today, big things to look at today, are going to be, drum roll please, the most American video games ever made. I ranked them. It's a real top 10. It's on the site. Did a whole new format and everything for it. It's pretty cool. We'll go through that today. And the issue about this is it's not the most patriotic games, right? It's the most American games. And the funny thing is, most of them are built in Japan. So it's going to be fun to talk about that. A brand new series on the site went live this week. It's about how I lost the entire website, how I got it back, how we built it back. We've put in all the old information and we're storing all the data. So it's pretty cool on that. It's called From the Zip Disk Archive. And also the news. This week, physical media got a date of death. We already kind of talked about it some, but people are already fighting back and a preservation win. That sounds exactly like something that happened to me personally. So that's pretty cool stuff this week. Plus, what this same Dead holiday week looked like in 1998 and 1999, straight from our archive that we just recently restored. Fun things like that. So let's light up the grill. Let's go. So what is Playing Out of Control Gaming? Playing Out of Control Gaming is a retro, classic, even modern game reviews, PC to Nintendo, every system. Founded with my buddy Dave back in 1998 at a lunch table in high school. If you want to read more about that, there's more in the first podcast. There's also a bunch in the new series we did and the story on the website. And our promise is no one buys scores. We don't have any filters. We just give you our opinions. It's not going to tell you what you should think. We're just going to tell you what we think. So anyway, first the news. So I'm going to do something a little different this week. The biggest gaming story of the week broke on Wednesday. We've already kind of covered it. That was the whole crap with Sony and digital games and then all the Microsoft stuff. So we're not going to spend time, the whole 15 minutes of this news segment covering that. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to kind of hit some of the highlights. If you want to find out more about that, you can look at the last episode we just did, which had a whole lot about what's really going on and everything. So the short version, so we're all caught up, is Sony announced on their blog officially that physical disc production ends for all PlayStation games in January of 2028. A disc you're already on, keep working, new ones stop being made. Same day, they also confirmed the PlayStation 3 and the Vita stores are closing region by region starting in August, going worldwide by next summer. And the Verge reported, and I stress reported, that the next Xbox has no disk drive and that Microsoft is testing a way to convert your disc into digital licenses. If you want the full autopsy, the money, the history, and what it does to the local gaming store, all of it, it's in the emergency episode sitting right next to this one. That was episode 3. So go get mad at me or with me there, depending on how you feel. So today, I want to give you the part that came out after the announcement. So some of the stuff that came out just a little bit after I already started on that episode, I started working on it and everything. Because the reaction this week's kind of been interesting as the news, maybe more interesting even than the news. So that's been one of those things. So first, the question everybody's been asking is, what about Nintendo? Matt Piscatella, the analyst at Circana, yeah, that's it. Circana, he's the guy whose actual job is to track what you buy, how much it goes to, who's buying how much, what stores are ordering a bunch of physical copies, things like that. He was interviewed by VGC, and he says, "My gut says Nintendo does what Nintendo wants to do, and I don't see them changing anything in their plans based on what Sony or Microsoft do on anything really. Nintendo's going to be Nintendo, for better or for worse," end quote. And that's the truth. It used to be like a negative thing, right? Nintendo's going to be Nintendo, but maybe not so negative this time. Now, he was also honest about the fact that game sales have went up physically lately. And so physical sales have went up, and most of that is due to the Switch 2. He thinks it may not be a long-term thing. It's just a little bump, but the Switch 2 is holding a very strong share of physical, and it could keep growing. And more grandmothers and family members want to buy physical games for their kids. That's how they get them birthday gifts and Christmas gifts and things like that. So we'll see how that works out. But the thing about Nintendo is it's the company everybody calls stubborn, right? If you go back to the console wars and everything, and Nintendo refused to change and refused to play the game that, like how Sega was playing it with the Genesis, they're still going to want to put cartridges in boxes. I know that they started putting the cardboard things in there, right? And that's not exactly real games. It's more like a digital license. Of course, it's similar to how kind of half the discs nowadays for some of the new systems are really just more or less digital licenses because you can't play them without doing a download. But they're still somewhat committed to being a physical company right now, at least. They still do a lot of the actual games on regular cartridges, and at least you can sell or trade in the cardboard ones. The license goes with the cartridge, so that's a great thing. If you like to resell and to be able to trade and things like that. Nintendo being Nintendo, it's a compliment right now. So, and going to be a thing this whole month. Actually, July is going to be Nintendo month on the podcast here and on the website. They're going to see coming up a whole lot of Nintendo stuff. Also, another reaction we got to this big story was the boutiques. Limited run games put out a statement this week called Preserving the Games You Love. And there's one line in it that I want to read you exactly. They said, physical was never just a format to us. It's preservation, ownership, and craft, end quote. They are calling the mission Forever Physical now. It's kind of similar to the online group. And it's a responsibility all of us are proud to carry their words. And the smaller indie physical publishers said they were deeply saddened by Sony's move and said it out loud. Companies whose whole business is putting games in boxes just became the public opposition. And they announced LRG just announced a brand new physical Tomb Raider, the remake one from 2013, 2016, something like that. We just did a news story on it on the website, but that's coming out to the Switch too. They've got a collector's edition and a regular edition. So they're not just talk, they're making the games. They're still bringing out games. And I love that. And then this week, there's also another favorite reaction I had because the internet never forgets, right? Back in 2013, you remember when Microsoft announced the Xbox X or the Xbox One? So hard to keep up with the numbering, right? The Xbox One, they were talking about getting rid of the disk drive and it was all going to be digital and all this stuff. And Sony made a famous little video, two Sony executives straight-faced demonstrating how to share a used game on the PlayStation 4. The entire video is one guy handing the other guy a disc, and that was it. That was the whole ad. It was Sony's victory lap over Microsoft's DRM disaster. This week, people found that video again, and the comments are now a funeral. So rest in peace, PlayStation, 1994 to 2026. 15 years ago, handing someone a disc was Sony's entire marketing strategy. This week, it's a legacy feature for them, right? So that's the fight. Now, here's where the part of preservation that's actually winning this week. Because that one's kind of a tough on what we went through there. But I'm telling you, the first one of these stories, basically tonight's back half in a miniature, right? It's going to bring up a lot of the stuff I mentioned earlier about the new series and about the website. The Video Game History Foundation recovered a lost Indiana Jones game. It's in 1990, Lucasfilm game, built in Scum, the same engine as Monkey Island and using the art from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It wasn't a full game, right? It's a promo piece made with the Western Digital to show off a VGA graphics card. It's a demo, not really playable or anything, but let me just tell you a little bit about that, why it resonates with me. Nobody knew it existed. There was no documentation, none, right? The Foundation interviewed people from Lucasfilm. No one even remember making it. You know where they found it, though? In the personal files of Eric Wilmunder, the guy who maintains Scum at Lucasfilms. The one guy, one personal archive, one box that survived, and now it's on the Video Game History Foundation's website and YouTube where anyone can watch it. 36 years, and the only copy unearthed was in one man's stuff. Now, I'm going to bring that all home in a little bit, so remember that in about 20 minutes or so. It's going to come back, and I'm going to show you my handwriting. A couple more wins real fast this week that we saw in preservation. Game Informer's entire back catalog just went online. Free every issue. Back to 1991. High quality scans, Some plus years of primary resources, previews, ads, review scores, all of it, right? We're probably going to dig into that archive a few times for this show. I guarantee it, because I love reading the old magazines. M2 put out their new Gomen collection in Japan, and inside of it was a hidden game, Crisis Force, a Konami shoot 'em up from 1991 that never ever left the Famicom until now. Its first official release in 35 years. That's preservation by curation, right? That's a great new little thing. I love when companies do this. And also, the recomp train just keeps on going. We've talked about GoldenEye has been recomped on the PC in episode 1, Castlevania 64 in episode 2, and this week, the Genesis recompilation project finally got its first fully playable game running native on PC. And of course, Sonic the Hedgehog, right? I am very happy about that. The recompilation thing's always been interesting to me, and I'm like, preservation, I like it, but it's not something I like to play the games on their original equipment, but I enjoy anytime more fans can get to play them, right? And one more story, because it's funny. 3DO comeback died in about a week, right? On Tuesday, the folks, how Southern people say it, that hold the 3DO brand said they were working carefully through complexities to bring back the hardware. That was Tuesday. On Thursday, Empire Interactive pulled out and said of the whole project and said, nope, not going to happen. The likelihood of prolonged legal disputes has ended the project. That was their words. Turns out reviving a dead console is not a trademark file and a right swap. It's 30 years of contracts. Nobody knows who owns what. And I said it in the last episode. I watched 3DO die the first time. Apparently, it can die twice, and it didn't even really live the second time. It is what it is, right? Otherwise, it was a quiet week besides all that craziness, right? And all the fireworks that are actually going on again today, Sunday, because people have more money than I have. One more story, right? From the other fire that we talked about earlier this week, the Xbox reset. Acclaim Studios has now got a new boss, Jörg Gustafsson, the co-founder of Machine Games, the Wolfenstein Studio, and the new Indiana Jones Studio. Yes, this is the second time we've mentioned Indiana Jones in one episode. That's kind of crazy. He's taken over leadership of Acclaim. Now, Acclaim is one we talked about that's supposedly on the chopping block with Microsoft. Acclaim's president, though, Leonard Bendel, resigns. So, sure, this is all probably somehow tied together. We'll find out probably more tomorrow. We're supposed to find out some big news from Microsoft on the 6th. So we'll find out. But there's a French filing behind this, and it's dated June 30th. So I'm sure this is what it is. We'll see. They say there's no plans to end the development on Marvel's Blade. So Microsoft sources in Microsoft say there are. So we'll follow that accordingly and just kind of see what happens. Nothing else has really been confirmed yet, and who's actually paying for all of this restructuring, the developers and the human beings and all that point. If you want to know about all that, check out the subsidy part 2 on the website. It's a lot going on right now at Microsoft. A lot going on at Sony, a lot going on at Bungie, a lot going on golly, Ubisoft. Everybody's got stuff going on. And a couple quick hits. Oblivion Remastered is coming to the Switch too on August 11th. Full game on real cartridge. That's the right way to do it. The Echo the Dolphin remaster is reportedly getting a physical and a deluxe edition, reportedly at least. Oh, Echo, we love you so much. It's be great to have you again. And the delistings this week, because there's always been delistings, right? Cruisin' Blast vanished off the Switch eShop with no explanation, and one going the other way, though, Way Forward's Till Morning's Light was delisted 3 years ago. It's now coming back. So it can be done. If somebody cares enough about a game, maybe we can get them back on the shop. Oh, and the folks who make the beautiful cartridge readers for the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo confirmed that Nintendo 64 operator is next. So you can dump your own carts and preserve your own shelf. But you can do things the legal way. You don't have to download ROMs and things like that. So and it's also, this is going to be interesting. You can't see them, but I've got 6 3D printers in here. And there's a new open source gadget called the Easy Buff that you can 3D print most of the parts, and you build the motor and everything and put in the surfacing pads, and it lets you resurface and rescue your aging discs that have too many scratches and things like that, because some of those discs resurfacing tools are just like thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're really good ones. And a lot of the game stores I know, they can't even afford to purchase them. They're so expensive. So it's going to be kind of good to test that out eventually. We'll test it out on the podcast and on the site. We'll probably do a YouTube video. We'll see how that works out. We'll try it on some crappy games first, though. Nothing good. And at this point in the show, this is where we would normally have an ad break, but we don't have a sponsor this week. So anyway, so if we don't have a sponsor, I'll say this. Visit the website. We got a restoration project going on. Got hundreds of reviews already restored. News pieces from 1998 and over 2,000 something from 1998 news stories. And thousands more from other, I think we've got like 3,000 or 4,000 total news stories recovered. A couple hundred reviews, new reviews every day. Visit us at pocg.net. And if this show is your kind of thing, follow us wherever you listen, because that number kind of helps me keep the idea, keep going. Okay, so this week in POCG history, right? I like the time machine thing. So straight off of our restored archive, what was we covering this time, this exact week, back in the olden days of the 90s? So I have to be honest with you. The first week of July was the dead zone back then. It's not like this week of July and last week of June for us this week, where we've had nothing but firestorms and everything, but it was dead, and not as dead as it is now, but it's not dead now, but it was then. So everybody in gaming was taking a break. So it is what it is. But we didn't stop posting. July 4th, I posted about Happy July 4th, 1998. It was Independence Day itself. And also that day, Diamond released new drivers for the Stealth 2 S220 graphics card. So happy 4th of July. Here's your VGA drivers for a graphics card that people probably returned because it was really horrible. That was not a great card. So, you know, that was, though, the thing I was doing on the holiday in 1998, thing I'm doing the holiday in 2026, right? Yeah. So posting about graphics card drivers for people who've probably already got rid of the card. So maybe it was dedication, maybe it's a warning sign, maybe it's both. I don't know. July 7th, 1999, EA shipped a game called Skydive with an exclamation point. Yeah. First PC game that simulates extreme sport of skydiving. The 90s were like, just make a game about anything and just see what sticks. Skydiving, not so much. Deer hunting, apparently, it stuck back then. July 8th, 1999, EA announced a new chief information officer, because apparently we ran corporate appointment news back then. It was dead. And one last story from then, July 9th, 1999. This is one of those retrospective moments where it comes, preservation pops up. Acclaim Entertainment announced third quarter results. $80 million in revenue for the quarter. Up 9%. Got that turret money and South Park money and wrestling game money. Acclaim used to be a giant, and the press release read like the good times were there forever. 5 years later, Acclaim was gone. Bankrupt 2004, the whole company's gone. So that's what belongs in this episode, because the press release and the news on the website outlasted the company. The only reason you just heard that is because some reason wrote about it back then and recovered the archive recently. So the archive remembers. That's the whole point of us rebuilding the POCG archive, which brings me to what this episode's about. It's the 4th of July. So let's talk about America as seen through a CRT. And there's a new feature on the website. Got all the fancy graphics and stuff. It took me like a week to do, but it's called the Most American Games Ever Made. And it's pretty interesting. I wanted to go for something different, right? There are American games about America. There's that one with George Washington about the tyranny stuff, and like for the Super Nintendo, and America's Army and other games like that, right? But I wanted to start with the most games that like are over the top Americana, like the America that you see on the movies. And here's the funny thing. Most of them were made in Japan. And here's what I mean. Growing up, a huge chunk of my idea of what America is came out of games or movies and things like that came from other places in the world, right? The Japanese studios were making all these games about America, and they never even been to America. It's just that perpetuated thing about what America is. Explosions, loud, dumb, and it's okay. I've had a lot of quarters and loved every second of it. Let me give you the one game that kind of proves this whole point. And this game didn't actually make it to America. They actually made it in Japan and released it in Japan. Eventually it did come here, but it's called Metal Wolf Chaos. And in that game, you play the president of the United States, not an advisor, but the president. And you climb into a giant walking war machine, bot like thing, mech machine, to stop a coup led by your own vice president. No one tell the president about this. He might be like that. And when you launch, you yell the quote, "Let's party." Now, this was from Software, the Dark Souls people. And here's the thing. It only, like I said, it only came out in Japan in 2004. It was an Xbox game, right? And the Xbox sold like crap in Japan. I don't even understand, but it's like the most American game ever made. And it was like too niche to be sold to Americans. I swear everybody I know would have loved that game. I think we did get it though. It was like 15 years later. Yeah, it's just funny, right? That game is just so quintessential, over the top America. So that game's like the extra game in this list. It's like the +1 game, but on the site there's a full top 10. And here on the show, I'm just going to hit the highlights of the games. Number 1 was Bad Dudes, the arcade cabinet game that looked you in the eyes. It says, "Are you bad enough, dude, to rescue the president? The president has been kidnapped by ninjas, and only 2 guys in tank tops can punch their way across the city to save him. And when you win, he takes you out for a burger." And of course, made by Data East in Japan is what it is. Now, the second one, right? This one is quintessential American. This is the American game even my wife knows. The Oregon Trail. So this is the game made to teach us American kids about the most American thing there is: loading a wagon and dragging your family and everything you own west because someone said there was land. It was Manifest Destiny with a mini game. And it taught a whole generation about our country, our roots, and killing our family with dysentery in a computer lab. So it's great times, right? All right. Then you have the homegrown loudmouths, right? And Duke Nukem 3D, made in Texas, all sunglasses, one-liners, Vegas neon, and Fallout, which took the shiny 1950s American dream and dropped a nuclear bomb on it on a holiday about fireworks and mushroom clouds. So this one's kind of fun, right? And my favorite piece of irony on the whole list is 1943, the Battle of Midway. It's a World War II shooter where you fly an American plane against a Japanese fleet, and it was made by Capcom in Japan. So they built a game where you beat them, and they sold it back to us in arcade where we paid them by the quarter to beat them. So that's really American, right? Capitalist. So nothing more American than that kind of transaction. And almost nothing, right? Because the biggest over-the-top American-style game has to be Grand Theft Auto. The whole series, right? The whole thing is the most American thing in games. And Vice City is probably the one that took it over the top. And Grand Theft Auto 6 will probably be even bigger. So neon 1986 Miami, pastel suits, cocaine, car radio playing the whole decade of American pop. It's just America as a fever dream. And it's perfect. I guess where that one was made, Scotland. So the most American series on earth comes out of a studio in the UK. And they did it again with GTA 5, with the modern Los Angeles, and the best pictures of this country keep getting painted by people like that live somewhere else. The rest of the list kind of keeps the same energy. Contra, the 4-player Nintendo, the 4-player Ninja Turtles cabinet at the pizza place. Remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games? And one of my favorite, and this was suggested by a reader and a listener of the site, the podcast and the website, and that was RoboCop. And this one's perfect, right? You can't get any more American than you work the job, you die on the job, a company takes over the police force, and they bring you back to life, build you into a machine, and then they make you go back to work. And of course, that was dreamed up by a Dutch director making fun of America from the outside. And I think the actual game was designed in Japan, so another one. And Crazy Taxi, to close it all out, the great Dreamcast and arcade game where the whole city map is basically Pizza Hut and KFC, and you're trying to make it as fast as you can and take people to their places. So Sega being Sega, right? So 7 of the top 10 games on this list about that make great American style games and about America, they were made by people in a country that only knew America somewhat through the movies, or maybe they visited once or twice, but not really American. So it's interesting. And you know what? I guess they understood the assembly code, the assignment, better than most of us who live here. And they gave it back to us bigger and louder and more fun. And it turns out that this is exactly how we like to see ourselves in America, right? Over the top and boisterous. And anyway, this is on our series called The Top Loader, and it's the most American games ever made. So you can go on the website, argue with my ratings, leave us a review. Let me know what you think. What's your most American games? So anyway, load it up and blow up some more fireworks. It's only the day after, so you got plenty of time. People in my neighborhood will be shooting them off for the next 16 days. So anyway, let's look at the back half of this show. And that was something I wanted to bring. This is the new series I was telling you about, and it's just a recovery series about the website. And if you don't know what this is, a iOmega Zip 100 drive. And there's a zip disk in here, and it's not plugged in right now, so I can't eject it. But if you can see on there, it says backups. And there's a lot of files on there from the website. And here's some floppy disk with some other files from the website. And so back in episode 1, I told you how I lost this website, right? The quick version for anyone that's new here. This website was a continuation of a Sega website I had that we decided to make it into a gaming website. And me and a buddy started in 1998. Ran it for a number of years. Went off to college. He went off to college. Broke. And because I was broke, I let the domain expire and POCG died. Now, I did bring it back later in late 2000, like 2010, I think it was, with another website and started new content and everything. And then I changed it back to Playing Out of Control Gaming. And so that's how that all happened. But recently, things changed, and I decided I wanted to bring back the original site, right? The old stuff from the 90s. But like, how do you do that, right? How do you recover a site like that? Well, archive.org, and Archive's a great site, but they only had a little bit of our stuff. We hopped around domains a lot back then, and maybe 50 reviews from the old days, 40 or so. Enough to get started, but hardly any of the news, because the news stuff was like this Perl and CGI stuff, and it was really hard to get like off archive. It didn't back up that stuff up. So earlier this year, I was at my mom's house or something, and I was looking for some old game systems, actually, some old games, and I found a Nintendo box, but it didn't have the game system in it. But anything, and she's got stuff in the attic and 2 storage buildings. I love my mom, but she's a bit of a hoarder. Just don't let her know I told you guys that. But in all that, I found a box of discs of my stuff and some of my stepdad's stuff, and they were floppies mostly. I've got a stack of floppies now, but mixed in there was a couple zip discs, and there was also some CDs I had. It said this like Adam, and it's had a bunch of crazy stuff on some of that stuff. But the zip drives, that was the interesting thing, because I remember we had 2 zip drives at the house, one inside the beige PC I built for myself, an internal drive. But in our original Packard Bell Legend, we had the blue external one with the parallel port connection. And my stepdad bought the discs because back then we didn't have a CD burner or anything like that. And so I had these discs now. I found this stuff at my mom's, and I don't have a disk drive. I don't have anywhere to put the zip disc in anyway. So I went on eBay, found the zip drive disc, like one I held up for you, to the actual zip drive itself. And this is a USB one, so it's a little bit more modern. Getting to work on Windows 11 is not easy, but anyway, it is what it is. So I wasn't thinking about Playing Out of Control Gaming at all. I thought maybe there'll be some photos on there, some fun stuff. I was actually hoping for some older copies of some games I like to play that kind of have went away, that people are looking for some of that older stuff for to rebuild them. And anyway, so first, one of the discs I put in there was a lot of stuff from my step photos and some memories that he had, because he's gone now, and I like looking at those photos. But the second one I put in, that one, it just said backup. It said Adam's backup. And so that's the one that's in that drive right now. And I put that in, and you know what happens? Windows throws up a malware warning, a Trojan. And let's be honest, probably downloaded something back then I should not have downloaded, some kind of keygen or something like that. And anyway, Windows quarantines it. I'm like, okay, what the crap have I got into? But then I started opening up the files, and I'm like looking at them like, wait, this is an old copy of Playing Out of Control Gaming. This is one of it was actually the gray and black version of this website. It was white with black and had this gold font and stuff. It was very short-lived, but it had all these text files, and the text files had the news. They were just like all the news articles we had. And the way our Perl script would work is like each line would be like it's a news, like it's so the script would like separate them on the website. But so I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And then there were reviews, and there's 200 something reviews on there. There's Sega post material from the Sega side I had, stuff that never showed up on archive.org because we were so young or too small, or it just never got crawled back then. So some really cool stuff, even some stuff on GeoCities that I completely forgot about. And I was like, okay, this is the moment. This is how I'm going to get all this stuff I want to get back on the website from the actual source. So everything, not everything, but a lot of things we wrote up to is, if it's gaming, it's going back on the site. So that's where the last few months have gone now. We've got a couple hundred restored reviews. We've got a whole game vault now and a hardware vault, and a lot of stuff's coming back. Thousands of news articles are already back because those were a little bit easier. I wrote a program to strip them of the information and put them into a WordPress file and JSON and import it. It's kind of cool, right? For me, maybe not you guys. You don't care. That's okay too. But it's kind of cool. Acclaim, we wouldn't have known about Acclaim's $80 million quarter or the 4th of July video card drivers. This whole segment and this segment and that segment, all that wouldn't even exist without that. And, you know, I'm enjoying it. And like I said, I found some CDs, I found some other stuff, and got some reviews from some people that had emailed me in. I was on the CD. I had a whole archive of emails, and some of that stuff's some really cringy stuff, right? When you're 16, 17, 18, write some cringy stuff. But Animaniacs review, I just pulled off of one of those and put on the website recently. And it makes me think back to that earlier news article we did about the Indiana Jones demo, right? This one guy at Lucasfilm kept his files, right? Nobody in the company remembers it. His art that he had personally, though, he had it. And I'm not saying that I'm like some guy from Lucas, right? And I'm not saying the lesson's identical, but I'm glad I kept the stuff, right? And I'm glad I could recover it. And I'm glad somebody could recover that guy's stuff and he kept it, because it's important to someone. Maybe it's just important to me. Maybe it's important to some of the people that used to help me with the site. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm pulling out the old reviews and the old news stuff back from the dead, and I'm going to spotlight them on the podcast here occasionally. We'll do that this week in POCG. And I'm also doing the new series. And the series, we won't talk about it on the podcast most weeks or anything like that, unless it's something important. But that new series is, I'll kind of go through everything that I recover and the weird things I find. And that series is called From the Zip Disks. Part 1 and 2 are up on the website now. So if you want to read it, you can. If you don't, that's cool too. Anyway, having said all that, because this is the thing that I want you to take from this, right? I lost the site once. This site was my baby, and I let it slip through my fingers, and I kicked myself for years, and it came back off a disk in a box in a storage building, or disk in an attic. So when I tell you preservation matters, that the stuff we make can just vanish as nobody keeps it, I'm not theorizing. I've kind of lived it twice now. I'm Adam Richardson. This is my website, Playing Out of Control Gaming. This is my show. And this is our story. So, the question this week I want to ask you, and it's an easy one since it's a holiday weekend. What's the most American game in your collection? And I'm not talking about where it was made, because you heard the list. Most of these games are made overseas. But the game that makes you feel like a 4th of July cookout, or the game that makes you feel like the explosions of fireworks in the sky. So let me know. You can visit us at POCG.net. You can look us up on Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Blue Sky. We're on all of them. Got a Reddit group too. And you can drop me an email at adam@POCG.net if you want to shoot me an email. So, new this week, like I said on the website, Most American Games Top 10. That's the new top loader issue. The new From the Zip Disks episode, the Subsidy Part 2, which is about the heaviest thing I wrote this year, and then also a new editorial that should be up by the time you listen to this or see this, and that's going to be on Sony and the guy that kind of led to them getting rid of discs. So anyway, like I said, I'm Adam with POCG, and we thank you for watching. And like I said, this month is Nintendo month for us. So school's out, pool's open, and we've got some great lists of the top Nintendo games that play like summer coming up. Next week's Super Nintendo. Week after that's Nintendo 64, and then to celebrate the Game Boy's birthday, we've got Game Boy games. So anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you. Have a good weekend.